The moment people miss. Imagine opening your brokerage app one morning and realizing something feels off. Not because stocks crashed, not because crypto spiked, but because silver, boring, ignored silver is trading above $100 an ounce. Not after a hype cycle, not after a Reddit frenzy, just quietly, methodically, inevitably. A year earlier, it was barely above $30. That kind of move doesn't come from speculation. It comes from pressure, slow, invisible pressure that builds for years and then snaps. And here's the uncomfortable truth. By the time silver shows up on financial TV every night, the real move is already over. Today, I want to walk you through why silver is no longer just a precious metal, why the supply system is breaking in real time, and why the world is discovering, far too late, that it built the future on a material it can't replace. This isn't a trade idea. This isn't a hype pitch. This is a supply chain autopsy. Section 1. Why this isn't a normal commodity move. Most asset bubbles follow the same script. Prices rise, attention follows, speculation piles in, reality disappoints, then crash. Silver's move doesn't follow that pattern. There was no mania phase, no leverage-fueled frenzy, no celebrity endorsements. Instead, demand kept climbing, while supply quietly failed to keep up. For 5 straight years. And when deficits last long enough, markets don't correct, they break. Section 2. The number that changes everything. Let's start with one number. Global silver demand recently crossed 1.2 billion ounces per year. That includes industrial manufacturing, energy infrastructure, electronics, medical equipment, investment demand, jewelry, and coinage. Now, here's the problem. Global supply, mining plus recycling, is barely clearing 1.0 billion ounces. That's not a rounding error. That's a 250 million ounce shortfall every single year. To put that in context, that shortfall alone equals the entire annual production of the world's largest silver-producing country. And this isn't new. This is year 5 of the same imbalance, which means inventories didn't just decline, they were drained. Section 3. Where the silver went and why it's not coming back. A common misconception is that silver works like gold. It doesn't. Gold gets stored, silver gets used. Once silver is embedded into solar cells, circuit boards, batteries, medical coatings, and industrial catalysts, it's often economically unrecoverable. It doesn't come back to vaults. It disappears into infrastructure. Over the last half-decade, hundreds of millions of ounces were converted into physical systems that cannot be recycled at scale. That silver didn't vanish. It became the backbone of the modern economy. Section 4. Inventories are telling the truth. Markets can lie. Warehouses can't. The amount of silver available for immediate delivery has collapsed across every major exchange system. North America, Europe, and Asia. What matters here isn't total silver somewhere on Earth. What matters is how much metal can actually be delivered when contracts are exercised. And that number has been shrinking at a pace that makes commodity desks nervous. When physical inventories fall far enough, pricing power shifts violently. Section 5. The signal nobody talks about. Here's a detail that rarely reaches headlines. Silver lease rates. This is the cost paid to borrow actual physical silver for short periods. Normally, these rates sit near zero. When supply is healthy, nobody pays a premium to borrow metal. It's easy to find. But recently, borrowing costs exploded to levels that make no sense unless silver is scarce. When industrial buyers are willing to pay double-digit annualized rates just to secure metal for a few months, something fundamental is broken. That's not speculation, that's desperation. Section 6. Why China just changed the game. Now we get to the geopolitical layer. Most people think of China as a manufacturing powerhouse. What they underestimate is control. China dominates silver refining, not mining, Refining, which means even silver mined elsewhere often passes through Chinese processing before reaching end users. Recently, China imposed new export rules that limit who can ship refined silver abroad, restrict quantities, and route exports through state-approved channels. This isn't a tariff, this is strategic allocation. China is saying, we're prioritizing our domestic industries. Everyone else gets what's left. If this sounds familiar, it should. This is the same playbook used in rare earth metals. The result last time? Global shortages, explosive price moves, and years of supply chain restructuring. Silver is far more embedded in everyday technology than rare earths ever were. Section 7. Demand isn't just growing, it's stacking. Here's where things become non-linear. Silver demand isn't rising from one source, it's rising from multiple megatrends simultaneously. 1. Solar energy. Silver is essential for photovoltaic cells. Solar already consumes a massive share of annual silver production, and installations continue accelerating globally. 2. Electric vehicles. Even traditional EVs require silver for wiring, contacts, and power management systems. Now add next-generation battery technologies, which require dramatically more silver per unit. Even partial adoption adds tens of millions of ounces of new annual demand. 3. AI and data centers. High-performance computing depends on silver's unmatched conductivity. As AI infrastructure expands, so does silver consumption. Quietly, invisibly, relentlessly. 4. Medical and industrial uses. Silver's antimicrobial and conductive properties make it irreplaceable in specialized applications. None of these sectors are shrinking, all are growing faster than global GDP, and all are competing for the same limited supply. Section 8. Why mining can't save the day. Here's the assumption most people make. If prices go up, miners will produce more. That logic fails with silver. Why? Because most silver isn't mined intentionally. Roughly 75% of silver production comes as a byproduct of copper, zinc, and lead, which means silver output depends on other metals' economics. If copper slows, silver slows, even if silver prices explode. Primary silver mines make up the minority of global supply, and even then, new mines take time, from discovery to production, exploration, feasibility studies, permitting, financing, construction. This process takes 8 to 12 years in ideal conditions. There is no rapid supply response. There is no emergency ramp-up. The silver that would have prevented this shortage needed to be mined a decade ago. Section 9. Declining ore grades make it worse. Even existing mines are struggling. Average silver ore grades have declined steadily for decades. That means more rock processed, higher costs, lower margins, slower output growth. Higher prices don't magically fix geology. At some point, you simply run out of high-quality deposits. Section 10. Wall Street is finally paying attention. For years, silver research was an afterthought. That's changing. Major institutions are now publishing forecasts that would have sounded absurd not long ago. Why? Because banks understand one thing very clearly. Paper markets can ignore shortages until delivery matters. When physical demand collides with limited supply, pricing stops being theoretical. Section 13. Why this isn't 1980 all over again. Every skeptic brings up the same comparison, 1980. But that event was driven by leveraged speculation, concentrated positions, financial engineering. Today's environment is the opposite. This is industrial pull, not speculative push. Factories need silver to operate. Governments have mandated the technologies that require it. There is no alternative material that performs as well at scale. This isn't optional demand, it's structural. Section 12. The paper versus physical problem. Most silver trading doesn't involve metal, it involves claims. For every ounce of physical silver, there are dozens, possibly hundreds of paper claims. That system only works if nobody asks for delivery, and trust remains intact. But when industrial users demand metal, not contracts, stress emerges, and stress changes behavior. Factories hoard, governments intervene, supply chains fragment. That's when pricing becomes unstable. Section 13. The psychological shift that matters most. The biggest change isn't supply or demand, it's perception. Silver is no longer viewed as an inflation hedge. It's now recognized as critical infrastructure material. That mental shift changes everything. Pension funds reconsider allocations, sovereign buyers enter, long-term contracts replace spot markets. Once that transition completes, the market never looks the same again. Section 14. What happens from here? No one can predict exact prices. Markets overshoot, corrections happen, but structural shortages resolve only one way. Prices rise until demand is destroyed or supply finally catches up. Neither
looks likely anytime soon. The world committed to electrification, AI, and renewable energy before securing the materials required to build them. Now, the bill is coming due. Final thoughts. Why this matters beyond silver. This story isn't really about silver. It's about what happens when financial abstractions collide with physical reality, policy moves faster than infrastructure, and long-term shortages are ignored until they become unavoidable. Silver is just the first warning. Others will follow, and the people who understand these dynamics early aren't reacting, they're positioning. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment with the next topic you want unpacked. Not the headlines, but the mechanics behind them. Because the most important changes in markets happen quietly until suddenly they don't.